I have a feeling that this episode might ruffle some misogynistic feathers today. Go cry about it. Here's what happened at Valley Forge that nobody told me about. Washington's army starving, freezing to death, absolutely falling apart, literally bleeding through their boots because their feet were frozen inside of their boots. Hard times, Daddy, hard times. And the people who showed up, it wasn't Congress, it wasn't colonials, it weren't the French yet. It was 47 Oneida warriors and one woman who walked 250 miles through cold April snow to show up with corn and save an army that was about 2 weeks away from dissolving completely. Her name was Polly Cooper. Before we get to Polly, you have to understand what the Oneida were walking into. Because this wasn't neutral, risk-free, like, oh, we're going to go help our neighbor. It wasn't anything like that. The Oneida were part of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, 6 nations that had been unified for centuries. Gotta remember, first world people were here first. Fucking who thunk it? Wild. When the revolution broke out, the Confederacy fractured. The Mohawk went British, the Seneca went British. The whole alliance was tearing itself apart along the Revolutionary War lines. Nation against nation, family against family, the Oneida chose the Americans, partly thanks to a patriot missionary named Sam Kirkland, who Washington himself credited with having uncommon ascendancy over them. Choosing sides has always had consequences. In September of 1777, British Loyalists and Mohawk forces, their former-owned Confederacy brothers, burned the Oneida village of Oriska to the ground, wiped it out, punishing them for supporting America. Washington sent the Marquis de Lafayette.
Bonjour, citoyens. My name is Marie Joseph Polivroche Gilbert du Motier, le Marquis de Lafayette.
To recruit 200 Oneida warriors that winter. The Oneida Nation had already paid in blood for picking a side, and 47 was all they could spare. And they could barely spare that. Their homeland needed defended, and knowing that, they sent them anyways. And these weren't just volunteers who had never seen combat. The Oneida warriors who marched to Valley Forge had already fought. At the Battle of Orscani in August of 1777, Oneida warriors joined the American militia walking into an ambush in the Mohawk Valley. Remember this? Great movie. The man leading them, a war chief named Han Uri, took a musket ball through the wrist during the battle. His wife, 2 kettles together, stood next to him on the field and loaded his gun for him so he could keep fucking fighting. Teamwork makes the dream work. Han killed 9 enemy combatants that day with 1 working hand and a badass wife. So that same Han Uri, fresh off Orscani, was among the warriors who made the march to Valley Forge 6 months later. These are 100% not the people that you needed to convince about making a sacrifice. April 25th, 1778, the group departs their village, Kanawahale, which is now in central New York. April snowstorm, 47 Oneida warriors, hundreds of bushels of white corn, and 1 badass woman. There are no records that explain why she went. She just did. They walked 250 miles through snow, mud, through terrain that had every good reason to just snuff them. They arrived May 15th. A Continental Army soldier noted their arrival in his journal. 40 Indians of the Oneida Nation arrived at camp to scout near the lines. There was no mention of Polly. The journal just didn't see her. They're barely through the gate and soldiers are already grabbing the corn, just shoveling whole handfuls into their mouth like, and we've been over this. Everybody's starving and it sure does beat birch bark. That's how hungry they were. And Polly had to stop them. Because the thing about white corn, if you eat it raw, it swells in your stomach and kills you. White corn isn't sweet corn. It requires soaking, dehulling, roasting, grinding. It's got a whole fucking preparation process. Kind of like opium. You cut it the wrong way, you're either or eat it raw and you just poison yourself with the one thing that was supposed to keep you alive. Polly Cooper, who was there for reasons we don't know, walked 250 miles through a snowstorm in backwoods New York, sets up basically what one historian has called a de facto cooking show. She teaches the soldiers how to make hulled corn soup, cornbread, corn mush, and she mixes in some local fruits and nuts, berries for nutrition. She treats sick soldiers with herbal medicine and becomes Washington's personal cook. The other warriors were called home after 6 weeks because their own villages were under attack again. Sacrifice. Polly stayed. Here's the part that gets cut from damn near every single telling of this. 5 days after arriving at Valley Forge, those Oneida warriors go straight into combat. Washington sends
Marie, Joseph Pont-Livroche, Gilbert du Motier, le Marquis de Lafayette.
2,200 men to patrol outside of Philadelphia. The Oneida go with him as scouts. May 20th, 1778, the Battle of Barren Hill. That sounds fun. The British sent a massive force to trap Lafayette and capture him. On Yerry's scouting party, there's 47 Oneida, handful of Frenchmen, spot some British cavalry. They ambush him from behind trees with rifles and arrows. They grab the equipment the British dropped while retreating and fight a delaying action against roughly 2,000 soldiers, darting tree to tree in classic Iroquois guerrilla style, buying Lafayette's forces enough time to escape across the Schuylkill River. When a French artillery officer was shot off of his horse, the Oneida warriors refused to leave him. They carried him out under fire. 6 warriors died at Barren Hill. They're buried at St. Peter's Church Cemetery in Pennsylvania. The plaque that is marking their grave just says 6 Indian scouts who died in battle, May 1778. I just said fucking more than that plaque says in 3 minutes. Fix this shit, people. Washington called it a near-perfect escape.
Le Marquis de Lafayette.
Got out because the Oneida bought him time. Meanwhile, back at Valley Forge, Polly is still there, still cooking for him, still treating sick soldiers like it was her calling. When it's time to go home, the Continental Army tries to pay her actual money, former compensation for everything that she did. And you know what happened? She said, She flat out refused it by saying, and yes, I am welling up. I don't know if you can see how sparkly my eyeballs are getting. She said, "It is my duty to help my friends in need." Some sad-ass foreshadowing I have going on right now, and fucking hindsight being 2020. There's an account that her and some soldiers' wives went window shopping in Philadelphia. She admired a shawl in a store window. Said the shawl, there. That's a shawl, okay? Now we're all up to speed. Anyways, I don't know how easy it was for Congress to appropriate the money since they like dragging their Peter in the mud on everything else. And that's what she accepted. That's what she wanted, and that's what she got. One shawl for saving an army. Martha Washington, who was at the encampment, Martha actually spent a lot of time with George out in the field, which, good for them. Big fucking squirrel. Yeah, I'm sitting in the truck, bro. Where was I? Martha Washington, who was at the encampment at the time, is also credited in oral tradition with presenting Polly with the shawl and a bonnet personally. Now, the bonnet was lost over the years. The shawl still exists. It's in nearly perfect condition. It's been passed down through Polly Cooper's descendants for the past 250 years. The material can't even be accurately identified. Some say it's silk, some say it's horsehair. But the Smithsonian has their grubby little, but that's a different thing. I'm not going into a Smithsonian tangent. After the war of the Oneida helped win, here's what happened to them. They lost their fucking land. Almost all of it. The guys who Washington called, in his own words, the people who manifested the strongest attachment to us throughout this dispute got pushed off of their ancestral territory over the following decades. One of their principal villages was burned in 1780 during the war by some loyalist forces. Some Oneida, tired from the ongoing attacks, having no support, were just forced to switch sides, just to survive. Their homes, their way of life. In the words of one historian, completely destroyed by the fighting. That's what we do for them. Chief William Rockwell, an Oneida leader and a descendant of Polly Cooper, wrote it down years later. Polly Cooper gave water to enemy soldiers as well as the men in the colonial army because she believed the war was not over water or food. Polly knew the war was about freedom and thought to develop principles for the good of all living and the coming generations. She gave water to the bad guys too because the point was bigger than both the sides. In 2004, the Oneida Nation commissioned a 22-foot tall, 2,200-pound bronze statue of Polly Cooper standing alongside Chief Shenandoah and George Washington at Valley Forge. It now lives in Washington, D.C. in the Smithsonian Museum of American Indians. 2026, this year, the U.S. Mint put Polly Cooper on the Native American dollar coin. 250 years later, she's finally on some currency. The same shit she refused to take as payment. Good for her. Good for her. The Oneida split from their own confederacy, got their asses handed to them by them, just to go support a revolution. Got their villages burned for it, got put through the ringer, walked 250 fucking miles in a snowstorm anyway, saved an army from poisoning. Well, I mean, they wouldn't even saved an army from death. Because if somebody else would have just showed up and been like, here's some corn, everybody would have been dead. They pulled one of the most badass delaying actions against British soldiers and carried our wounded out under fire. Then, as a thanks to the Oneida Nation, they lost their land. Shit. Nope, that is completely bullshit. Polly Cooper, the woman who literally kept Washington's army alive throughout that winter, she just wanted to look nice. That's it. She wanted to look nice. She wanted to, get that thing going. And that shawl is in better shape today than the fucking gratitude that we showed them. I'll see you tomorrow. Can be so proud of this stupid constantly getting dog bite every which way. It's so stupid and I don't even understand it. It's fucking